All right, GladrapChannel, you're with Taylor Barry. Hey, it's good to see you again, man. How you been?
It's been good. Good to be back in New Zealand after a long 14 days of quarantine.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. I think you were supposed to come to, you landed in Auckland and then your flight was redirected to Christchurch. Was that expected? Did they tell you in advance or?
No, actually we were told we were going to be in Auckland, and then last minute when we got off the plane they're like, hey, you're going to Christchurch, so ended up in Christchurch, which is okay, you know.
When you returned finally to Auckland, which is maybe a couple days ago, how did Joseph look? Like, it's been a while since you've actually, because he's been training with you, he's been living with you. Now it's completely different. There's been such a gap. How did he look? Did he stick to a regiment?
Yeah, I think it's the longest kind of spell we've gone without seeing him, so which was about 8 months. So, I didn't know what to expect when we saw Joe, but he's in tip-top shape at the moment, and we're really excited to see where he is right now.
He looks really thick in the chest, like really thick in the shoulders. It looks like he's not been. It looks like he's been serious. Like he's been keeping active. In a way, was it good to have a lockdown as well? Maybe just let the body recover. Or what do you think of that? Or does a fighter need to be constantly active?
I think the plan was always going to be to have 3 fights this year, which obviously COVID's kind of made everything a bit unorthodox throughout the world. But he's here now. The break was probably good for him. He's had a lot of very, very hard fights on his body. He's had struggled with little injuries in the past. So I think the gap was always good. He's been lifting a lot of weights, heading the bag, running, keeping fit. So that's why he's on fight weight right now, with 6 weeks to go.
So this fight is not really it's not a keep active fight. It's not a stay busy fight. I mean, Joseph Parker is ranked number 3 in the WBO. Junior Fa is ranked number 6 in the WBO. So this fight really has some potential. Like if whoever wins this fight is in potential like contention for the WBO strap, right? I mean, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I would say the name definitely has to be in the mix. You got one with Usyk, who's former undisputed. He's the mandatory, and then he's obviously this weekend he's fighting Chisora, so lots at stake. And then you got Daniel Dubois. So it obviously puts someone in that kind of mandatory kind of equation to fight for a mandatory. I wouldn't say title shot straight away.
Maybe one more.
One more, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So so not only does it have that WBO ranking, like those stakes behind it, it also, I mean, from a local point of view, from a New Zealand point of view, it's massive because these two have sort of had that amateur rivalry. How much do you hold those fights that they've had in the past? Do you put any weight behind it, or is it sort of doesn't really mean anything by now?
The amateur kind of style is a lot different than the professional style. Look at Joe in the amateurs. I don't know if he took it as serious as he takes boxing now. A lot more is at stake. A lot of money on the line, a lot of history on the line now. Yeah, he beat Joe. He has success with Joe, but Joe's also had success with him. So we'll see.
Because when he beat Joe, like, even though it was for the amateurs, I mean, Joe lost his shot at the Olympics because of that. So it was when the stakes mattered, like it did, it did cause him a loss. So does Joe talk to you about? Does he ever mention it? Like, look, I've lost to this guy before. I need to redeem myself. Does he ever mention something like that? Or
Joe went on to do much bigger things than the Olympics. He won a world title. He won a lot of regional belts along the way. So I don't think it's something Joe doesn't hold a grudge. What's happened is happened.
Just one thing is with Joe, you always see him and he's super calm. He's super like composed. Like even when he got hit like with Dillian and he got up and he just, is that something you train or is that something you're born with?
It's the mindset. He's very mentally strong. It's walking in front of 80,000 people in Cardiff has only made him the fighter he is now. So walking in front of 10,000 back home's nothing new to him, where it will be for Junior.
Is there any chance he could be underestimating? That's Doug right there. Is there any chance he might be underestimating Junior, just based on what he's accomplished? And
you can't underestimate anyone. Joe wouldn't be overlooking him for sure. There's too much at stake moving forward. Joe's got some big fights in the horizon for him. Obviously rematch with Dillian White. Maybe a world title fight if it becomes vacant. So you can't overlook because that's when you do get beat. But no, he's definitely not.
Last question. So how do you think this fight's gonna go?
I like Junior. I think he's a good kid. But if I'm going to be true to myself, I don't think it's a very challenging fight for Joe. He's much more experienced. His ring IQ is just at a different level. You know, we haven't seen the best of Junior yet. He's never really been tested, but he has struggled with opposition that's very D level. So I gotta say Joe for sure, early.
Can you be a little more? Did you say early?
I think a stoppage before 4.
Taylor, always good talking to you. You're always quite frank and deadly honest. So, man, hey, good to see you again, and yeah, nice to see you back in New Zealand, and exciting fight ahead of us. So, thank you.
Always, bro.